Hello students, welcome back. So in the last class we have started with the topic that is the inheritance, and in that we have seen the very first two types of inheritances, that is the single level inheritance and second was the multi-level inheritance. Now in this class we are going to discuss one of the very important topics in Java, that is the super keyword. Now when we talk about the inheritance, so we know that whenever we are talking about the inheritance, so majorly there are the two things which is going to know, which is going to be there in the program, that is the parent class and the child class, or the base class and the derived class. So whenever we want to use the content of the base class into the child class, let's say if I want to use the constructor, means what, let's say I define the two different construct, one which is belongs to the parent class and another which is belonging to the child class. So now what I want to do is I want to access the constructor of the parent class inside the child class, right? So whenever we want to access the content, that is, it can be the data members, it can be the member function, or it can be the constructor of the parent class into the child class, then we use the keyword that is a super. So whenever we talked about the super keyword, it is related to the parent class. That the thing which we are defining using the super, so super indicates that that particular thing, that is the data member, member function, or the constructor belonging to the super class or to the parent class, right? So that is what the thing we are going to see, and also we are going to see the demonstration of using the super keyword, right? So let's start. So super keyword in Java is a reference variable which is used to refer the intermediate or immediate parent class object. That is, let's say if I'm talking about a single level inheritance, so we are having a parent class, we are having a child class, and let's say if I want to access the data member or the member function or the construct of the parent class inside the child class, so the content of the parent class will be preceded by the super keyword. So whenever you create the instance of the subclass, the instance of the parent class is also created implicitly, which is referred by the super reference variable. And where we use the super keyword in Java. So in order to access the data members, that is the instance variable, in order to invoke the methods of the parent class, and in order to invoke the constructor of the parent class, we use the super keyword, right? So very first we'll see that how we are going to use the super keyword in order to invoke the data members of the parent class. Means what I'm saying is we are having some data members or some variables in the parent class, and we want to use those data members or the member variable in the child class. So in order to discriminate that which data members belongs to the parent class and which data members belongs to the child class, we have to use the super keyword. So whenever the data member is prefixed with the super keyword, it indicates that that particular data member or that particular member function belongs to the parent class. So now if I'm talking about this particular example where I've written one class animal and I'm defining declaring one variable that is a string color equals to white, right? And I'm writing one more class that is a class dog which is extending the animal. So you can see that this is nothing but the example of single level inheritance, whereas animal is my parent class or the base class, and from this parent class we are deriving the new class that is a dog class. So dog is nothing but the child class or the derived class, and in both the classes, that is the animal as well as the dog, we are having a common data member, that is the color. Whereas animal, I have defined the color equals to white, and inside the dog I have defined the color equals to black. Now if I say I simply call the color data member, right, or I simply no printed the color, right? So which color will be get printed? That is, we are having the two different values of the color, that is the white and black, right? So if I just call this color, so by default it will take the color of this particular class only, right? Means it is not going to print the value of the color which we have declared inside the parent class. So in order to discriminate that which color belongs to the parent class and which color belongs to the child class, we are supposed to use the super keyword, right? So now if suppose I write the SOP and if I mention super dot color, so the moment I write the super, it will just fetch the value of the color from the parent class, right? And then I will be creating the object for the child class and I will be accessing this particular function. So we'll be getting the output as, that is the first will be the black and second will be the white. So hope you understand this particular example, that what is the use of super keyword. If I do not use the super keyword and let's say if I simply put the color, so again it will print the black only. Means in order to access the content of the parent class, right, which is having the same name as the child class, that is a color data member and the color data member in both the classes, that is the parent and the child. So in order to discriminate that which color belongs to which particular class, whether it is belongs to the parent class or whether it belongs to the child class, we have to use the super keyword. So the moment your data member is preceded by the super keyword, it will access the content from the super keyword or the parent keyword, parent class, right? Then next, that we can also use the super keyword in order to discriminate the methods which is belonging to the parent class and which is belonging to the child class, or base class and the derived class. So super keyword can also be used to invoke the parent class method. Means again the example is same, that instead of the data member, now we are having the member function, which is common amongst the parent class or the base class and in the child class. That is the same method in base class and same method in the child class. So in order to discriminate that which method belongs to the parent class and which method belongs to the child class, we need to discriminate this by means of the super keyword. So what I did is I just defined one class, that is the animal, where I define one function, that is the eat function, and in that I just simply write the SOP eating, fine. And again I derived one more class from this base class, and that class is a dog class, right? And again inside that I have written the same function as the base class, that is it. And here I am writing eating bread. Now if suppose I am calling the eat function, okay, if I am calling the eat function directly, so which it will be get executed? By default it will execute the child class. But if I want to execute the eat function of the parent class, then this eat function should be preceded by the super keyword. So as I want to use this eat function inside the child class, so I have just prefixed this eat with the super keyword, that is super dot eat function, right? And I will calling the bark function, right? And finally what I'm doing is I just simply calling the work function, and inside the work function I call the eat function and the bark function, right? So likewise now this work will be printing the it function from the parent class and will be printing the bark function from the child class, right? So this is what the use of super keyword, right? And third way around is what? Key, if suppose I want to call the constructor of the parent class inside the child class, means what? A parent class is having its own constructor, the child class is having its own constructor, and what I want to do is I want to use the constructor of the parent class inside the child class. So if I want to use the constructor of the parent class inside the child class, then we have to use the super keyword. So if you can just go through the example, so again I have considered the same example, that is the class animal, and inside the animal I have created one constructor. Inside that the animal is created, then again I am deriving a dog class from the animal class, and again inside that I am creating a dog constructor. Now in order to just access the construct of the base class, I am simply calling the super function, right? So the moment I call the super function, it will no access the constructor of the base class or the parent class, right? And if I suppose create the object for this dog, so likewise it can be accessible, right? So this is what the use of super keyword, right? So whenever we are talking about the inheritance or the interfaces in Java, the super keyword is widely used. Why it is widely used? Because it is quite obvious, or it is quite common that whenever we are writing the multiple classes, so in those multiple classes we may require to access the content of one class inside the another class. Whereas when you're talking about the relationship between the two classes, So but obviously one of the class will be the parent or the base class, and the second class which is deriving from that particular class will be the child or the, you can say, the derived class, right? So whenever a child class want to access the content of the parent class, and in order to discriminate the things from the parent class and the child class, we use the super keyword, right? So that is what the use of super keyword. And I'm just I will simply give the demonstration for the, no, the super keyword. So I'm not writing the code because it will take the time as such. So I'm just assuming the example for the student class, and here what I'm doing is I have defined one personal information class where I have defined some data members, and now you can see that here I'm having one constructor, that is the name of the class name as the same as the function name, and that is nothing but the constructor. And here I'm passing some parameters, and these parameters I'm initializing to the data members, right? Whereas again this personal information is having a function as display function, where I'm displaying the values of the name, mobile, email address, age, and so on, right? So this particular class, that is the class personal info, is my parent class, right? And now from this parent class I am deriving a new class that is called as student. That is, class student extends the personal information, which indicates that the student class is derived from the personal information class, right? And inside that again I'm defining certain data members like roll number, enrollment number, and the branch. And again inside this derived class I am declaring one constructor for this particular class. Whereas now in this particular class I want to access the constructor of the parent class. So when I want to access the constructor of the parent class, so what I'm doing is I'm just calling the super keyword, and inside this super keyword I am passing the arguments which I passed inside the parent class with the constructor. So in the parent class along with the constructor I pass the 5 arguments. So when I want to use this parent class constructor inside the child class, so I use the super keyword and I have passed the appropriate number of parameters which I pass inside the parent class, that is A, B, C, D, E, right? And along with that I pass the same arguments inside this constructor, that is a child class constructor, right? You can see that this ABCD is common with the parent class and the child class, right? And I'm only initializing this roll number, enrollment number, and branch with respect to this N, Z, and R, right? And again I'm having this display function here as well. That is, we are having a common method in the base class as well as the child class or the derived class, that is a display method. And in order to discriminate this display method from the parent class and the child class, so what I did is I simply use the super keyword, that is super.display. So the moment I declare it as super.display, it is going to display the content of the parent class, or it is going to call the display function of the parent class or the base class, right? And then finally I'll be creating the object for the child class. I'll be passing the number of arguments which I passed along with the constructor, and simply I'll be calling this method using the object of the child class, like. And if I just execute this particular program, so now you can see that it is executing. Taking some time for execution, so hold for a second. Yes, now you can see that the mobile number, that is what S1 display. Inside this S1 dot display we are having super dot display. So the moment I'm saying super dot display, so it will go to the parent class and it will execute the parent class constructor, right? That is the mobile number, then the email ID, then the address, then the age of the student, likewise the roll number of the student, the enrollment number of the student, right, the branch of the student. So likewise it will execute all the things, fine. So this is what the use of super keyword in Java programming language. And again, it is very important topic usually asked in the interviews, that what is the super keyword, what is the use of, what is the significance of super keyword, right? So that's it for this particular class. In the next class we are going to talk about the next type of inheritance, that is the hierarchical inheritance. So thank you for listening the video. Thank you.